Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Gaur Pimanandi. Jai Vishnupada Paramahamsa Pri Vrajagacharya Stotra Satta Sri Srimad His Divine Grace Sharabai Charanarvina Bhaktivedanta Swami Sri Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Kambiviti Founder Acharya Divine Grace Sri Prabhupada Ki Namacharya Sri Haridas Thakur Ki Samavata Bhakta Vrinda Ki Harinam Sankirtana Ki Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jaini Thai Gaura Pimanande. All glories to the Assembly devotees, all glories to the Assembly devotees, all glories to the Assembly devotees. All glories to Sri Guru, to Sri Gauranga, all glories to Sri Prabhupada. Om Agyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chaksurindritam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Jita Padakamalam Sri Gurun Vaisnavam Syam Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Ragunatam Vitam Tvam Sajivam Advaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalitam Sri Visakan Vitam Scha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kantana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sutadevi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Tarubhyasya Kripa Sindhu Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narotamam Devim Sarasatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayat. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, let us first offer respectful obeisances unto Narayana, Supreme Personality of Godhead, unto Narayan Rishi, the supremmost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta Prayasabhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Utamashloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. By regularly hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering a service unto the pure devotee, all that is troublesome within the heart becomes destroyed or practically to nil, and loving devotional service unto the Supreme Lord, who is praised with transcendental songs, it becomes established as an irrevocable fact. Idam Bhagavatam Nama Puranam Brahma Samhitam Uttama Shloka Charitam Shakara Bhagavan Rishi Nisreyasaya Lokasya Dhanyam Swasthayanam Mahat. Srimad Bhagavatam, known as the Grantara, as the king of all Vedic literatures, is the literary incarnation of God. It is compiled by the incarnation of God, as Srila Vyasadeva. It is meant for the ultimate good of all people. It is all successful, all blissful, and all perfect. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Advaita Gadadhara, Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Sarabhyaya Namaha. Om Sarabhyaya Namaha. Om Sarabhyaya Namaha. Mukam karoti vasanam pangom nagayate girim yatkripat maham bande Sri Gurum Dinataram. Yatkripat maham bande Sri Gurum Dinataram. Hare Krishna, and welcome to our morning bhagavatam session, continuing Canto 1, Chapter 5. Narada's instructions on Srimad Bhagavatam. Take, yes. Tasmims tada labdha rucher maha mati priyasravasya kalita matir mama yayahan etat sad asat sva mayaya pashye mayi brahmalpitam pare tasmim stada labdha rucher mahamate priyasravasya kalita matir mama yayaham etad sadasat swamayaya bhashye mayi brahmane kalpitam pare tasmim stada labdha rucher mahamate priyasravasya kalita matir mama yayaham etad sadasat swamayaya bhashye mayi brahmani kalpitam pare tasmim stada labdha rucher mahamate priyasravasya kalita matir mama yayaham etad sadasat swamayaya bhashye mayi brahmani kalpitam pare
Tasmimstada labdharuchirmahamati.
Tasmimstada labdha ruchermahamati.
Priyashravasya askhalitamatiirmama.
Prayasravasya kalitamatirmama.
Yayaham etat sadasat svayamaya.
Yayaham etat sarasat swamayaya.
Pashe Mayi Brahmani Kalpitam Pare.
Asye mayi brahmani kalpitam pare. Tasmim sada labdha rucher mahamate.
Priyashravasya
Shabasya skalita matir mama. Yayaham etat sadasat swamayaya. Pasye mayi brahmani kalpitam pare. Tasmin, it being so,
being so,
tada,
tada,
at that time,
at that time,
labdha,
labdha,
achieved,
achieved,
ruchehe, taste, mahamate,
mahamate,
O great sage,
O great sage,
priyasravasi,
Priyashravasi,
upon the Lord,
upon the Lord,
akshalita,
Akshalita,
matihi,
Mati,
uninterrupted attention,
uninterrupted attention,
mama,
Mama,
mine,
mine,
yaya,
Yam,
by which
by which
aham, I,
I,
etat,
etat,
all these,
all these,
sat, asat,
Sat, Asat,
gross and subtle.
gross and subtle,
Swamayaya,
Swamayayam,
one's own ignorance.
one's own ignorance,
Pasye,
Pashi,
see,
see,
mai,
Mai,
in me,
me,
Brahmani,
Brahmani,
the supreme,
Supreme,
kalpitam,
Kalpitam,
is accepted.
is accepted,
Pare,
Pare,
in the transcendence.
in the transcendence.
Mm. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. O great sage, as soon as I got a taste for the personality of Godhead, my attention to hear of the Lord was unflinching. And as my taste developed, I could realize that it was only in my ignorance that I had accepted gross and subtle coverings, for both the Lord and I are transcendental. Kindly repeat after me. O great sage, as soon as I got a taste
As soon as I got a taste
for the personality of Godhead,
for the person of God,
my attention to hear of the Lord
my attention to hear of the Lord
was unflinching.
was unflinching.
And as my taste developed,
And as my taste developed,
I could realize
I could realize
that it was only in my ignorance
that it was only in my ignorance
that I had accepted
that I had accepted
gross and subtle coverings.
gross and subtle coverings.
For both the Lord and I are transcendental.
For both the Lord and I are transcendental.
Purport. Ignorance in material existence is compared to darkness. And in all Vedic literatures, the personality of Godhead is compared to the sun. Wherever there might be light, wherever there is light, there cannot be darkness. Hearing of the Lord's pastimes is itself transcendental association with the Lord, because there's no difference between the Lord and his transcendental pastimes. To become associated with the Supreme Light is to dissipate all ignorance. By ignorance only, the conditioned soul wrongly thinks that both he and the Lord are products of material nature. But the fact, uh, but in fact, the personality of Godhead and the living entities or the living beings are transcendental, and they have nothing to do with the material nature. When ignorance is removed and it is perfectly realized that there is nothing existing without the personality of Godhead, then nescience is removed. Since the gross and subtle bodies are emanations of the personality of Godhead, the knowledge of light permits one to engage both of them in the service of the Lord. The gross body should be engaged in acts of rendering service to the Lord, as in bringing water, cleansing the temple, or making obeisances, etc. The path of archana, or worship of the Lord in the temple, involves engaging one's gross body in the service of the Lord. Similarly, the subtle mind should be engaged in hearing the transcendental pastimes of the Lord during thinking about them, chanting his name, etc. All such activities are transcendental. None of the gross or subtle senses should otherwise be engaged. Such realization of transcendental activities is made possible by many, many years of apprenticeship in the devotional service. But simply attraction of love for the personality of Godhead as it was developed in Narada Muni by hearing is highly effective. Reading the text again. God. Well, that's why. Oh, great sage, as soon as I got a taste for the personality of Godhead, my attention to hear of the Lord was unflinching. And in my taste, and as my taste developed, I could realize that it was only in my ignorance that I had accepted gross and subtle coverings, for both the Lord and I are transcendental. So in previous verses, the aspect of taste was also discussed. It is also mentioned here. That as soon as Narada Muni is explaining, as soon as I got the taste, my attention to hear of the Lord was unflinching. Um, about the need to engage both the gross and the subtle body. and how the path of archana, or worship of the Lord in the temple, is meant to engage the gross body, uh, and the subtle mind is meant to be engaged in hearing. Yeah, in hearing, thinking, chanting, etc. So that's why in the Bhagavad Gita we speak about, or we hear, what is called prescribed duties. Prescribed duties is especially, well, prescribed duties both on the gross and subtle platform. Um, there are activities which are more in line with dharma. Uh, well, the prescribed duties that are described in the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam are both of a material, or we could say gross nature, as well as subtle nature. Um, and Krishna consciousness means to find the best way in which the gross and the subtle means this material body and and the subtle body of thinking, feeling, and willing uh, is meant to be engaged in Krishna's service. Prabhupada explains actually how, for one who has reached that level of purification, even though one is still in the material world, for him nothing is material. Of course, we cannot imitate that. That is what we are endeavoring to do. Otherwise, um, otherwise we remain connected due to ignorance with the modes of material nature, and we generate or create karma. So this is mentioned again and again, how only the process of pure devotional service, process of bhakti, can totally or break our ties with the modes of material nature. And therefore, all of our activities become transcendental. This is the great science, how to actually mold our lives in such a way that all material duties, material activities, especially householders, they ask this question: how can I practice spiritual life because I have so much of material responsibility? But those material responsibilities, when they are uh, when they are performed in the proper consciousness, uh, are no longer material activities. like Arjuna, as a Kshatriya, performed his duties after hearing from the instructions given by Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. So those activities were the same activities that the opposite party was engaged in. I mean, Duryodhana and company were also fighting, but their fighting was of a different nature. So, so how to develop, how to come to that level is yeah, how to come to the how to develop that taste, how to develop that taste. Because the taste cannot be imitated. And sometimes we see devotees themselves or force the situation so that that taste or feeling is present. It's like sometimes also we see this. Um, it was there when Prabhupada was present. It's still there today, and in many ways, it touches the core of what uh, Mahaprabhu's mission is about. I'm referring to the actually soon after the disappearance of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, there were two. On one side, by one of the sons, as you know, Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Lalit Prasad, and then uh, and then the other was um, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And these points Prabhupada addresses nicely, actually, in the Nectar of Devotion, in the book itself, and also in the series of lectures that he gives. Um, matter of being cautious not to prematurely want to enter a certain realm, which of course involves what is being referred to here, getting that that taste for hearing, that taste for chanting, that taste for performing activities. Um, Prabhupada gives a nice example how uh, this natural development takes place uh, in uh, in due course of time, automatically, if one actually applies the process. Um, and he gives the example of just like a young boy and a young girl, when they become mature, they develop a natural attraction. Um, and of course, that's, you know, Nada Muni um, he is situated in his what we call Swarup Siddhi, which is a very elevated realm where one comes to know and understand his spiritual identity. Not only that he is spiritual, but his actual identity and relationship with Krishna. So these are very elevated um realms that are described, of course, in the Nectar Devotion, and that we should be aspiring as well, but not forcing. The Chaitanya Charitamrita, of course, touches on this nicely. Uh, this one particular verse mentions how more quickly one will actually be able to develop his uh, his attraction to Krishna uh, by closely being connected with these five that we know about, beginning with keeping the close association of devotees, uh, chanting the holy name, hearing Bhagavatam, Sadhu Sangha, Namakirtan, Bhagavata Savana, Matara Basa Srimurtira, performing those with as much uh, attention or concentration as possible. So that verse is explaining how when we do that, you were mentioning yesterday, I think, about or the day before, the point that is mentioned here or in the previous verse about being attentive. What you were telling is not only sufficient to be attentive. We need to be attentive, but what was the? You were making one point, I think. In addition to being attentive, we have to. I forget the point you were mentioning. Yeah, mood is there, of course.
The reason,
Mhm.
the reason why we attentive, why we decide I am attentive. That's an inclination for something to get something. So the goal,
Right.
keeping the mood. I mean,
Mm.
being attentive because I want to become a servant of the person, learn something, or like that. So many ways we can be attentive. Like Anam is also attentive rather what he's saying, find out the mistakes, and but it's different
Yeah.
attentiveness, the different goal, different result will come.
Yes. The karmis are very attentive.
Yeah.
In many ways, more attentive than devotees sometimes, because they have a.
And yet,
Yeah, yeah.
very attentive because they understand that's the one tool to get some good result.
To get the result, right? So, because our goal is a much higher goal, uh, a much better result, and devotees should be more attentive.
Duryodhana was also attentive to listen, for example, Balaram when he was teaching him because he wanted to gain something.
Correct.
But how he wanted to use that talent
Yes.
was different.
Yes.
That's what I mean, a mood.
The mood. Yes. Yes. So that means uh, how to constantly keep in the forefront what is the goal or destination, and knowing, reminding ourselves how the material situation in which we find ourselves is totally what we call unpredictable. People become, even devotees, when we are not sufficiently attentive, then we may become ill prepared to feel to meet some kind of difficult situation. Material world is for everyone. It can be very unpredictable. All of a sudden, or all of a sudden, we find out we have terminal cancer or whatever. So many things, and unless uh, unless we are fixed on the actual um, a goal, which is, of course, to go back to Krishna, to be completely um, detached from our material situation. Um, so Krishna arranges different situations to test what level, how ready are we, how uh, how much do we actually realize or understand. Um, for those who are not cultivating this knowledge of Krishna consciousness, they are generally what we call ill prepared, not prepared, and and and, and experience one crisis after another crisis. I mean, most people in the material world, especially in the kind of society we are living, are just living out crisis after crisis because
There is no scientific way to keep calm the society, so it will naturally turn, naturally come up with so many natural
yes,
problems because no one taking care of them in time.
yes. So that affects their health, their physical health, and that affects their mental health
Yeah,
also very badly. Yeah. That's why, in many ways, devo- devotees, those who are actually practicing Krishna consciousness, they are the best individuals. I mean, they are best prepared, we can say, to meet calamities. Um, because that's the nature of the material world, especially in Kali Yuga, calamity after calamity, and especially more so when the principles of Dharma are unknown and are being uh, totally neglected, bringing about all kinds of um, irregularities and catastrophes in the lives, in the personal lives of people. You know, so that was, yeah. You were making that nice point also that for devotees, we're not just simply happy or satisfied with having our situation in order, but we are also meant to feel and care for those who don't have that opportunity because they don't have the knowledge, they don't have the means. Uh, Even, of course, many of our own devotees have the means, but don't know how to properly utilize. Uh, so, someone shared one letter recently by Srila Prabhupada pointing out that it's actually more important to look after our own, to preach amongst our own devotees than to preach to new people. Uh, of course, we should also preach to others, but Prabhupada was making the point that we should be facilitating uh, as much as possible, caring for, giving proper attention to those who are practicing Krishna consciousness, so that they can actually become well established in their practice. Then when there's more such devotees, then they be more effective in their preaching. Yeah. All this becomes uh, more if we create a more favorable situation or favorable environment, just like uh, having projects, creating uh, communities is meant to facilitate this type of development. Uh, Means devotees living together uh, and developing proper consciousness, then what is being explained in the Bhagavatam becomes easier, as opposed to devotees not uh, not having that ongoing and much needed association amongst themselves. Many of our devotees are not having that kind of opportunity because they're not living in community of devotees. Majority of our devotees are to a large extent separated most of the time from devotee association because of the whole modern setup that is surrounding us.
see why it's so important for Narada Muni to speak about his previous life, how his Krishna consciousness started to a very elevated sage, Vyasadeva, who have some just a little difficulties to choose the proper focus, what he have to explain really for the people in general.
Mhm.
And then why Vyasadeva was decided has decided, yes, I put this story into that book, which meant for general people to bring them to the highest goal. So there's two things. First, Narada spoke about this topic, but Vyasadeva could decide, okay, I heard you, I understand you. No, I focus on Krishna, but not necessarily using that conversation to put to the Bhagavatam. But he not just listened and understood that meaning, but also he used that as a tool.
He inserted it in the Bhagavatam.
So why, what do you think? Why is it the best, and what is the goal of that story here in this part, the beginning of the Bhagavatam? Just about the beginning.
Right. People like to hear personal stories.
Yeah, that's
Uh, and I'm sure, it's like a disciple when he hears something like very personal
mm,
from his guru.
mm,
It touches him.
mm,
It has an impact.
mm,
And definitely that happened to Vyasadeva, Srila Vyasadeva. And I guess he wanted to share that.
mm,
Um, that my Guru Maharaj told me this. And it's a wonderful and very powerful um, example, isn't it? That at such a young age, ordinary boy um, became the all uh, powerful Narada Muni.
mm. So you mean that this kind of story, when we mention it, it's really quickly and nicely developed in the speaker or in the speaker's teacher or the topic itself.
Yes, that helps definitely
It's a good
because
tool for.
yeah, because the whole Vaishnav approach and the whole Bhagavatam message and the whole concept of Godhead is the personal aspect that um, that I think it serves many purposes. That mm, we generally think that only people who are born in like Brahmana families can become, yeah,
This
um,
body.
yeah,
But anyway, some things that quality need. Yeah, that's connected to this. There are different tastes. If I see that nice yellow flower, that's all have a taste.
yes, yes,
But taste for personal relationship or coming from a personal conversation, singing together or just doing together,
yes,
I would give up any flowers to watch or to make photos if I have opportunity to have a nice conversation with
yes,
some
yes,
person.
correct.
And I don't get that smell of the flower. Maybe that
Yeah,
person not
right.
smelling like a
Yeah,
flower,
right, right,
not
right.
so beautiful, but still
Yes,
somehow the taste coming from a personal association is much more higher.
yes, yes.
So why?
Actually, yeah. Actually, uh, by nature we are all hankering for this. because because our original um, our original nature is uh, we could say was having that relationship with Krishna that is now broken. So we are, even unconsciously, it's like people in the material world are all looking to establish friendship or relationship because that's we know actually when we have such type of opportunity to exchange, on a heart-to-heart level with individuals, then it's very satisfying because it's our nature. And the we get it's like um, a reflection or an extension of what is purely existing in the spiritual world and what is meant to exist, for example, in the material world amongst devotees also. But it is not so easy, even so many obstacles that prevent individuals from really uh, connecting and interacting in a very wholesome, pure, unmotivated, healthy manner that enriches both individuals. Relationships that are strong is when both individuals uh, are enriched by their relationship, by their exchange. Mm. So, because that is, yeah, that is entering the whole realm of rasa, which is so central. It is the essence actually of what the whole spiritual world. You know, Mm, spiritual life is meant to awaken our individual rasa, which means relationship, which rasa means taste, of course, as we know, etc. Yeah, yeah.
I have something about this Narada Muni's personality and
Mm.
history. So later in, I don't remember where, but it's also discussed that previous life of Narada Muni, before he was a boy,
Boy, yeah,
he was a Gandharva
correct.
and he was cursed.
Yeah,
So as far as we know, Gandharvas are a kind of sense gratifier, not bad way, but
yeah,
still they are quite influenced by passion.
yeah.
So, and if we see that from outside, we see just a boy, 5 years, 6 years, 7 years old, okay. But the boy or the spirit soul in the boy body experiencing, okay, now I am Gandharva, I am cursed, no, I get a new body, this is a human body, start to know what to do, but the soul keeps the tendencies, keeps the desires from the previous life. Nothing stopped them. So how the Gandharva type of soul means someone who is like to live like a Gandharva and then becomes a very sober young boy. What made him sober? The death or the curse or the situation when he found, oh, I'm very poor, nothing available, which I remember some, what thing?
Um, yeah, Gandharvas. Uh, it's not really the soul, right? It's the subtle body, the mind, thinking, feeling, and willing. So I had heard actually in that previous birth as a Gandharva. Um, I think I heard this from Bhakti Charan Maharaj many years ago that he had performed some activity uh, in that Gandharva body of cleaning some area which was um, some kind of agyata sukriti. He had cleaned an area that was, I think, I forget the details. That was maybe a holy place, and so he got some agyata sukriti. So um, this is partly the reason uh, why in his next um, birth as a young boy, he had.
Very soon after that, Agyata Sukriti,
Yeah,
he
correct.
becomes sober.
Right.
His mind become
Yes,
more pure.
he got some huge benefit uh, because it mentions, isn't it, those who perform pious activities after a certain time, it accumulates, and then you get a good situation where, let's say, you need devotees, for example. Yeah. Well, this is
And
what
the same
happened to him.
situation, others do not become devotees.
So he did uh, this particular seva, even though unwillingly. There might be some other activities and other reasons why he got this, like, very unique and rare opportunity to be at that place, and also to have some, as we read recently, he was already quite sober as a young boy. He was not like ordinary boys who were just wanting to play and what.
Not interested for running.
Yeah, yeah. So uh, that was connected with good deeds that he did either knowingly or unknowingly in the past. Yeah. So it's amazing that he remembered his two previous lives.
Yeah. No, he should. It's his
Well,
service.
we don't even remember what happened yesterday.
Yeah, it is his service to remember. So Krishna gave him the quality.
Right.
Yeah, some persons remember.
Yeah.
But there's a reason why they remember and others no.
Right.
There's a function.
Right.
I'm giving the remembrance, so
Yeah.
Krishna gave the
Correct.
specific reason.
Yeah. It's quite rare, of course.
Yeah.
Because most, yeah. And in many ways,
it's not a common tool to preach.
right.
I remember 2 lives ago.
Then we'd have,
2 lives ago.
we'd have a lot of stories to.
Thank you.
So, Gyana Samudra Prabhu, we can. Any question? Something?
What is more, huh?
More
What is?
What is more important in bhakti?
What is more important in bhakti? You mean not between this and between that, just what is more
What is the
important?
most important?
Most important. Most important.
What is most important in bhakti? Well, this whole section that we are reading is stressing hearing. Hearing.
Hearing.
Yeah. Hearing
Attentively.
nicely, attentively, hearing attentively, and developing mood, developing strong uh, desire, feeling to actually uh, advance in Krishna consciousness, to become purified, to be useful in Krishna's. Yeah. In the Bhagavad Gita, there's one specific purport where Prabhupada explains how the those who are already liberated, the Paramahamsas, they're constantly tasting nectar because they have established a relationship with Krishna. They're on that high platform. They're always enthusiastic. And Prabhupada explains that there's another way to begin feeling this ecstasy, this enthusiasm. And how is that? Prabhupada explains that is by becoming more and more absorbed in the preaching mission of the Lord. Because Krishna descends in the material world, dharma samstapanarthaya, to reestablish dharma means he has a mission. So the more we become connected with Krishna's mission, and there's so many ways we can do this, unlimited ways. Growing flowers and vegetables is also being part of Krishna's mission. Doing any kind of service for Krishna, uh, having that strong desire to to help and to be part of the mission, when one can remain in this way enthusiastic, and one can actually develop uh, taste, higher taste. If we don't do this, then Maya is there to engage us. So we need to uh, have that desire to be engaged in Krishna's mission and Krishna's service. And if we don't have that strong desire, then Maya is there in so many ways. Okay, you're unemployed. I have I have some work for you. And practically speaking, every day, practically every moment, that is the choice we have to make. Either learning to become more fixed in what we are supposed to do as devotees. Otherwise, we get lost. Otherwise, we fall into different levels of tamas, ignorance. And when we are in tamas, then we cannot be enthusiastic. Of course, the karmis are enthusiastic for sense gratification, but they're not.
That's not satisfying.
Yeah.
So
It's called material rasa. It's also rasa, material rasa, but it's not fulfilling. Yeah, and it's temporary. Jai Kantaraj Bhagavatam ki.
Jai.
Very well.